Hello, hello. How are you, Mr. Willy?
Well, good afternoon to you, Jimmy. Well, good afternoon to you in California. It's good
Yeah,
evening, I guess, to me over here on the East Coast. I'm
yeah,
good. Good.
absolutely.
Yeah. So looks like we got. I have to do. I have to run the old same joke into the ground here. So deep just Jimmy is now live streaming talk show podcast Braggland. Oh, I thought it was the other. Never mind. Okay.
I was like, wait, my Twitch stream, you guys got a joke on that? I want to hear this.
No, anyway, yeah, no, that was the other. It was the other Twitch announcement that usually shows up each week
For you?
for you. I mean, for it shows up on the stream.
Do you have my account
And,
streaming on yours?
yeah, I mean, anyway, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah, I
What's
guess
up,
I'm doing
Rick? I
okay.
don't know who won. I don't know who won. Hi, Kayla. What do you mean by who won? Oh, who won?
So, who
Um,
won? None of us.
Nobody,
Nobody. The American people lost.
as
If
usual.
If you voted for Kamala Harris, you lost. If you voted for Donald Trump, you lost. If you voted for anybody, you lost.
Yeah, I agree. That is
Yeah,
very good explanation.
yeah. I mean, there's just no other way. So, Rick, how how the hell are you? And Princess Kayla, 91. How the hell are you?
Hi,
So,
Kayla.
and I guess they will all come as the evening, progress and all. So,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Shows that
yeah.
there's 6 people up in here already as it is between all of the channels. So hello, everybody.
Yeah, and we keep adding channels. Well, I know I do, and it
No,
looks like you did too.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. The more the
No
merrier.
skin.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. What's up,
And
Anonymous?
yeah, you know who's got into the game? The leftist mafia started doing that too on their channels.
What?
They started adding. I mean, the Humanist Report and the um, David Dole Rational National and
What did they add?
no, they're doing what some of the lesser known independent left wing media is doing their multi streaming on each other's platforms now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they got into the act. In other words,
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah. So
They've been doing that for like a year now or so, a little over that.
yeah, I don't listen to them too much. The kind of it's so 2019.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
they did it. They started it off, and then they had one girl that was in there, and then all this drama started with this one girl. So they've kind of just been laying low with their podcast. But yeah, the Humanist Report. I think there was that one guy that was from, oh my gosh,
Majority
Sam
Report,
Cedar show. Yeah, the Majority
Michael
Report.
Bender.
Yeah. So it's got like a couple of those people in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't listen to them too often. As I said, it's kind of passe, you
Yeah,
know.
I agree.
Unless there's a topic occasionally, if looks like it's a topic that I might peer at it, but very very seldom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So how's your
so
week been on the first week since the elections?
I'm going to tell you the truth, and I am neither delighted nor am I upset, and 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 what I mean by that is, when you have Trump being Trump, and then you have Kamala Harris dangling Dick and Liz Cheney in front of us. I mean, how are we going to be any better off? Because if Kamala Harris would have won, she would have had to listen. She would have had to listen to Dick and Liz Cheney for advice, and
Right.
yeah. So we're not. We really did not have it. We were fucked either way. Pardon my French.
Right. No, you're right. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right. I
we
agree.
were majorly fucked.
Yep.
So And it was like a repeat of 2016 without the positive Bernie vibes that it had, even after Hillary Clinton got the nomination.
I agree. Yeah, it's been rough. A lot of letting my friends know that I'm there for them. Lots of crying. Some of my girlfriends crying. It's been a pretty rough week for some people.
Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Montana who's a progressive pastor, and he's been counseling his congregation. There is one of the more liberal, progressive churches that he's the pastor for, and he's been trying to console them. It's like, we'll get through this Trump crap, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just gotta keep telling people, it's 4 years. We're gonna get through this. We got each other's backs. We're gonna hopefully be okay. Hopefully,
yeah. I try to look at the positive, and maybe the only positive to look forward to, maybe Ukraine, Russia might be solved. Possibly, that's the only thing that I might possibly see as a something that I could possibly look forward to seeing, happen with an outcome that might not result, I don't know, in World War III.
Right.
Absolutely. But everything else is pretty damn hopeless. So,
Yep. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I've got your first video up. If we want to start, I want to start with because I looked through all of your stuff today. The centrists are clueless.
Actually, let's start off on a happy note.
You're gonna start off. Okay, so I saw that. I'm afraid that is it copyright free? Are we good?
You know what? I mean, we did that with the Dark Shadows. Maybe if we put it on high speed, and I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
I'm gonna let you be the judge. We'll start with. I'm gonna let you be the judge. I think you probably might be right. We'll cross that bridge next time. How about that?
Hold
on. Oh, you're on mute.
Me?
Yeah, you were just on mute for a second.
That's weird. The only thing I worry about is the intro song, so I can just skip through that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, we can. I just want to skip through the intro song. That would probably be the only thing I'm worried about.
Okay, I gotcha.
What's up, Hirsch? Happy, joy. Ren and Stimpy called it. #1, baby. I'm definitely gonna turn it up to 1.
What are you doing? Well, I thought you were out on a date with Jerry. So did I. He let me out at the movie theater, said he was going to go park the car. That's the last I saw of him.
So this is like a cartoon of the Golden Girls, but set in the future?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you've been ditched. It's finally happened. I cannot believe it. I have lost it, haven't I? More back seats than any woman I know.
You're not feeling any better, are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
But you look terrible.
Gee, I guess I won't be making it the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue this year like the rest of you. Dorothy's just concerned about your health. We all are.
Oh, you have been walking around sick for over a week. You would feel a lot better if you would just obey the doctor's orders. Now, look, either you're going to follow his orders or I'm going to call him and tell on you.
Ooh, what is he going to do? Come over and spank me? He does. Tell him to come by my room.
Happy at this hour.
Maybe it's Blanche's date. Oh, he better not show up here. Dating someone over 12?
Ma, that's not nice. Is that it, Stanley?
Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations, Stan.
Tell us all about it.
Oh, is she bald too? That's lovely, Stan. I'm impressed. I think Lisa Bonet spent more on the ring in her nose.
Don't listen to her, Stanley. It's beautiful. I'm sure Catherine will love it. Not a word.
I think the more appropriate question is, where is it?
Oh.
Stanley, honey, why don't you let me help you pick out something else for Cat? I'll help too.
Actually, he was going for a bracelet, but the mechanical claw grabbed the ring. Really? In 38 years of marriage, you never once cooked a terrific meal for us.
Oh, that was cute. That was
Yeah,
cute.
yeah. The Golden Girls in the future, you know?
The
Yeah.
future.
So, yeah.
Where did you find that? That's adorable.
It just happened to be on, I was just streaming on, just web surfing on YouTube, and it happened to be
Just
on
pop
my
up.
feed, and I was
That's
just like,
cute.
this is kind of cool, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I figure a little bit of levity to start off from a gloomy week, this is a way to,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. I agree. That was
Yeah.
cute. All
yeah.
right.
So anyway, just that I grew up watching the Golden Girls back in the 80s,
Mhm.
and it's hard to believe it'll be 40 years. Next year, it'll be 40 years when the first episode was on. Like, I could think it was in September '85.
Aww.
It seemed like yesterday.
Aww.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I used to watch
Liberals
it
and
too.
centrists.
I watched it with my grandma back when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, you used to watch it every Saturday night with the family, and it was one of those things it was just one of those things to look forward to. So, and it was funny. I mean, all of them were funny in their own unique way.
Yep, they absolutely
Yeah.
were. They
Yeah.
were. All right, we ready for this?
We're ready.
All right. Now it's time to get down into the nitty gritty.
Yep.
Start talking about all the boring stuff. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Never, ever learn the lessons. They're so ideologically wedded to the centre ground or their brand of politics, they'll never learn. Now, what we're hearing from the democratic establishment is we must blame wokeness. We must blame pronouns or trans people. That's the reason why. And I'm sick of this because it's not just America. We get this in the UK. We had it after Jeremy Corbyn. Even before Jeremy Corbyn, it was, we only win elections in the centre ground. Bullshit. And I call bullshit for two reasons. One, this election in the US, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump ran the most right-wing, the most sexist, racist, disgusting campaign for decades, maybe the worst ever, and he won, okay?
Yep.
Whenever the Conservatives in the UK pivot to the right, okay, no one ever says, do you know what? They need to become more left-wing to win elections. They never say that. It's only ever on progressive parties. And why do they say that? It's because centrists and liberals always side with the right over the left. They disagree with the left ideologically. So they're not saying you need to appeal to the centre because they think you can win. They're saying that because they hate your politics. They hate our politics. And in 2017, right, Jeremy Corbyn won 40% of the vote. He added 3 million votes, 10% of the vote from Ed Miliband, who lost a terrible defeat with 30% of the vote, right? He increased seats, he increased vote share, he mobilised people. He didn't win, but it was a hung parliament, right? Even Corbyn's biggest critics, inside and outside the Labour Party, for maybe about a week, shut the fuck up. I wish they'd shut the fuck up forever, but they did for just a week. There was a 2019 election, and the Conservatives won, but he still got 32% of the vote. Fast forward to 2024, Keir Starmer wins. Yes, it's a huge majority, but that was with less votes than both 2019 and 2017, and only because the Conservatives collapsed, right? There were the Liberals for a very short minute celebrated that centrism is back. Keir Starmer's revived centrism. Joe Biden in 2020 revived centrism. It is not back, right?
Nope.
It's gone. We are in
Gone.
an era of populism.
Yep.
Trump won on a populist campaign. Reform are rising in this country because of populism. If Keir Starmer continues the way he is governing, which he will, reform will make huge gains. I even think Nigel Farage could become prime minister in the future. And the centrists and the liberals hate populism. But the only way to defeat the far right, the only way to defeat fascism is left-wing populism. That's it. They do not understand this, and they're going to lose over and over again. And if the Democratic establishment have their own way, if they ignore people like Bernie Sanders, it's going to be JD Vance. It's going to be someone even worse than Trump. And it's going to be all on them.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, Jimmy? Because I have my thoughts on this.
No, yeah, go for it. I mean, he's absolutely right. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that this week. Really starting to see a little glimpse of hope in the mainstream media, of the leftist media starting to say a little bit, at least a little bit of like, hey, we might have fucked up. A lot of them are definitely going for the Trump stole the elections bit thing that the Trumpians are doing in 2020. But he's absolutely right. We call it the ratchet effect. The right keeps turning it to the right. The left keeps keeping it where it's at, not letting it turn to the left anywhere. And that's just what we keep having more and more and more. And he's absolutely right too, is we've got a populist movement nowadays. We had one side with Bernie and the other side with Trump. The centrists stopped Bernie, the right allowed Trump to flourish, and now we see what we're having, which is fascism on the rise. Yeah, that's my point of it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the year 2016. Actually, going to go back to the year 2015, maybe 2014. And people think I'm a conspiracy nut for saying this, but the reason we got Donald Trump the very first time round is because, in my opinion, I think that the Clintons convinced Trump to run. I think it happened during a golf game. Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were playing golf, and I think Bill Clinton was like, hey, Donald, you know what I think? I think if you theoretically run in the Republican primaries, I think that you can make it easier for my wife, Hillary, to win. And if my wife, Hillary, wins, you could be probably twice as wealthy and more powerful than you are right now. And I think that's probably what happened. And it bit them in the ass.
Yeah.
But, fast forward to the year 2018, when George W. Bush basically started talking about Russian interference, non-existent Russian interference. I want to make that clear because, whatever we may think of Trump, Vladimir Putin and Russia did not put Donald Trump into the White House.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right.
I think I'm correct. But Jimmy Dore said this when Michelle Obama started hugging on George W. Bush, because this is when the liberals started rehabilitating George W. Bush, which ended up with the rehabilitation of Dick and Liz Cheney this past year. And he said in 2018 that the liberals hated George W. Bush because he gave us, liberals hated Ralph Nader because he gave us George W. Bush. Now the liberals love George W. Bush, yet they still hate Ralph Nader.
Yep.
And fast forward that to the year 2024, the liberals love Dick Cheney more than they love Bernie Sanders. Whatever we may think of Bernie Sanders, I know that's a repeated phrase on my show, but whatever we may think of Bernie Sanders in the year 2024, the fact is, it is problematic when you see liberals thinking more highly of Dick and Liz Cheney than they do Bernie Sanders. And I think that that's where the Democratic Party is right now. And they have blamed the left. And it's always punched the left and let's go for the right. Yep. That seems to be the way the trend goes. And it irritates the fuck out of me.
Same. Absolutely same. Drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, Yeah, that's kind of a yeah. Yes, absolutely. I remember when they used to call Bill Clinton Slick Willy back in the
Sheesh.
90s. Yeah. I guess you must have heard about Marco Rubio becoming Secretary of State.
Is that real? Because I heard there was another person that was in line for that too. I've been seeing some of his cabinet picks.
Yeah.
Not sure though fully who's
Well,
in.
all I have to say is, I'll say it from day one. Fuck Marco Rubio.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to see the strategy that Trump is going for with this right now. I mean, we even heard this week that he's not going to be bringing in Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo. So that just, and then he's bringing in this one girl, a lady, I can't remember her name. And then now I hear Marco Rubio too. Like, I'm seeing the strategy here, and it seems like what he's doing is he's not bringing in the really well-known old school war criminals that know what they're doing, because he knows that they can overpower him. He's bringing in these younger, more in person, like penetrable, like he can change the way that they think, but they still have that war hawk, I want to make a bunch of money mentality. So he's getting away with the people that have power, so he, and bringing in people who don't, so that way he can get what he wants, but still keeping in that war hawk, capitalistic, money hungry kind of. I'm seeing the strategy here, definitely seeing the strategy of what he's doing, because that shocked me when I heard Mike Pompeo and Nikki Haley are not going to be in it. I was like, well, then who's going to help him blow and finish up Gaza? Who's going to help him do all these other wars that he's been wanting? I mean, the guy almost caused World War III with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, his last presidency. Like, we were this fucking close, okay? So I was so wondering who he was going to pick. And yeah, he's just picking just more impersonable people that are just like Nikki Haley and Pompeo, just younger versions, and more kind of in the younger mind where he can meld what they're thinking.
Yeah, and I can say this, since I'm half Puerto Rican. I can say this. What is Marco Rubio? Lindsey Graham. He's a heterosexual Lindsey Graham meets Ricky Ricardo.
Right. Look, even Hirsch just put Obama's ICE czar is now the new border czar. The guy was literally responsible for massive amounts of deportations during Obama's presidency. I mean, I think the term, or from what people are saying, is that Obama actually had more deportations during his term than Trump did. And that's who did that. That was the man. He was his ICE czar, and now he's going to be Trump's border czar. It's, yeah, we're seeing it. We're seeing it now. We're seeing it happen. Yeah, deporter in chief. Exactly.
Yeah, and what's going to be funny, and it's tragic, but it's going to be funny because it is so tragic, but it's the partisan posturing. We get to see AOC go to the cages by the border and do the little pouting game like she did when Trump was president, because they will become Trump cages again. I guess they're never Biden cages when Biden is president. They were never Obama cages when Obama was president, and Obama started those fucking cages. So, we get to see her do her little drama thing. I mean, I swear to God, she needs to go into Hollywood.
Yeah. I agree. And I just don't see how people aren't seeing this turning into, pre-concentration camps and eventually death camps and stuff. I was just watching a video. You guys go check out Papa Hirsch over on Twitch. He's doing these starting doing political stuff, and he's got some really good stuff. I've been doing the shows with him, and they were talking about during Germany and during World War II and what Hitler was doing and stuff. And the thought is they wanted to deport these people, the Jewish community. They wanted to deport them, but they needed to get them out. So they needed to put them all into the border area, which is kind of what we're doing to immigrants right now. Like we're about to deport them. Where are we going to deport them? Well, we can't deport them all because that means the other countries need to take them in. So we need somewhere to put them until then. These camps, which slowly turn into what we call technically a concentration camp. And then we're going to find out that it actually costs billions more dollars in our economy money to not only deport these guys and not have the jobs being done, but keeping them in a concentration camp and then deporting them. That's way more than what we're doing right now as it is. So what's the next best solution if you're already keeping people of a certain sect in a concentration camp and you're already thinking that this is costing the economy too much money because you've otherized these other people? What's the next best cheap option for an economy? Kill them. I don't understand how people aren't seeing the similarities of what's already being discussed right now with what's happening. And you're right, the Democrats aren't doing anything about it. They're just going to sit there during the Trump's campaign and cry at the fucking border again. And then when another Democrat comes in place, it's going to be another Kamala Harris that's going to be a border czar that's going to say, "Do not come. Do not come." Bitch,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, I just see it. Like if you've ever just done I've done more history in the last year than I have done in a very, very long time. And I swear to God, just this week alone, I'm already starting to see this shit. And it just drives me absolutely crazy. Like, okay, he's only going to have 4 years, but he's got the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court all on his side. Unlike last time, he's got no holds bar right now. There is no glass ceiling. He is through the fucking roof, and it's going to happen. We just need to figure out when. It's scary. I'm sorry. That was my little rant.
No, it's a good rant. It's a good rant. There's really nothing to disagree with the rant. I mean, it is pretty damn scary. But here's the thing. And I tell people when they're like, "We need to do something about them borders," I'll be like, "Well, there is something to do about the border. You don't want people coming here to the border, and I have no problem with the border situation, but there's this thing called American foreign policy. Stop with the sanctions. Stop fucking with countries south of the border, the global south. Or when it came to the migrants from when it came to the immigrants from Syria back in 2017, it's very simple. Stop with the drone strikes. Stop with constantly bombing these people halfway around the world. And you know what? People won't come here to the United States. It's very simple. Yep. Stop being a bully around the world. Stop being a bully in the global south. Stop being a bully in the Middle East. Stop being a bully everywhere around the world, and stop allowing the military industrial complex and the deep state to control everything in this country.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
it drives me crazy and it's scary, especially as
absolutely.
a woman. Like it just sucks being like, I keep saying this and I'm going to keep saying this. Like, it might not seem like a big fucking deal, but just imagine, like, I'm sitting here next to Willy, somebody I consider an equal, but to society, I'm a half of a citizen as he is. I don't have as many rights as he does. And now I'm going to be losing a lot more. And so are my beautiful, amazing daughters that are just turning into adults. Like, I empathize with people who are, the ones that go around and saying, well, the world is going to keep on spinning. Everything's going to be okay. But then we need people to start empathizing with us that are like, yeah, but this is our children and this is us. And that's not fair. Like, I see you as an equal. I completely see you as an equal to me, but it just sucks knowing in the back of my mind, society doesn't see that. And it's hard and it hurts and I'm tired of it. And it just sucks. I'm going to cry because it's so upsetting. Just sucks that it's just going to be another 4 years of possibly even worse for people.
But you know what, Jimmy, here's the thing. Here's the thing. As bleak as it is, and as fragmented as the left is, and it is plenty fragmented.
It is.
The difference between the left today and what was the left during Reagan and what was the left during the Bush, George W. Bush years is that the left today is a little bit stronger than it was then. The left is not going to take the shit that we took for many, many years. I mean, you know, and we can take comfort in that. As fragmented as we are as the left throughout the country, there are certain things that we're collectively are not going to put up with, and so I think that
But
there
we
will be
do
a
though.
resistance.
That's the
But there
problem
won't.
is we do. I mean, I was just watching shit about Fred Hampton this morning. Man, that guy could talk anybody into believing anything. He's so good. And they killed him. Done. Like I just feel like any
FBI
kind
did
of
that.
good yeah, I just feel like any good movements is just always gonna it's either gonna be taken over what was it, March on Wall Street during 2008? I heard, you know, that got taken over by FBI and CIA. We any type of good movements get infiltrated and ruined. Me Too movement, that got taken over and ruined. Like Alyssa Milano screwed that one fucking over. It sucks. Like any kind of justice or hope for the downtrodden gets downtrodden.
And we need to keep that up in mind, and we need to stop any attempts at FBI, you know, Fed infiltrations and everything. And I don't have the answer to that, but
I know.
we're not gonna lose every battle. We're gonna win some battles, but I mean we're gonna lose some battles, and it's going to definitely be a battle. But we do need to.
In my own anecdotal experience, the only battle that I have ever won politically was when I was in Indivisibles and we were trying to save the ACA Obamacare, like it was ever going away anyway. That's my only success. It's fucking crazy. Like everything else has just been like we can't even get a vote up to the assembly in the state of California for a statewide Medicare for all. That's insane.
And you know what's funny about that? I have a former friend that lives in California. I told you about that turned far right wing, and he was a cool guy when he was kind of left leaning, but he just became such a fucking asshole when he turned right wing, and he disavowed everything he ever believed in that was even vaguely on the left. Yep. And he'll swear to you that Gavin Newsom was some kind of far left person, and to the point where he's saying he's almost saying that he basically said that Gavin Newsom was a neo-Maoist or something like that once. So I mean, you know, it's crazy.
Right.
I'm like, Gavin Newsom is a conservative Democrat. And most of these Democrats that you criticize in California, and he would never watch this show, so I'll say his real name, Michael. Well, some of these Democrats you criticize in California, you know, they're conservative Democrats. Whether we're talking about Nancy Pelosi, she's a conservative Democrat. Adam Schiff is a conservative Democrat. Gavin Newsom is a conservative Democrat. You know, even Maxine Waters, she may not be a conservative Democrat, but she's not a far left-wing Democrat either.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, you know,
right, P-Stub, I've been right there with you. Trust me, I've been crying all year over this stuff. That hasn't stopped yet. Trust and believe every time. Yeah. There's a lot of crying this year, all right, between Israel and now these elections. Man.
Well, you know what?
My tinfoil hat's still on with that, and I still want to blame CERN for doing that recreating the Big Bang at CERN in Poland. I think that changed the timeline, and we're in some kind of weird multiverse on some weird opposite timeline that we should have been on.
But we're not gonna resort to wearing pink pussy hats.
No, I still have my tinfoil hat. You'll never get rid of that.
What's that now?
I said I still have my tinfoil hat. You'll never get rid of that.
Oh no, I can respect a tinfoil hat, but never a
That's
pink
right.
pussy hat. That was
That's right.
embarrassing.
Yeah. Is that better? Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
was like, you were like, I can't hear you, so I thought my volume was down, and it was.
No, no, no. Sometimes I'll miss what you're saying. I have a slight hearing problem.
Yep. Gavin is an APAC Zionist. Cory Booker is another one that's a phony baloney.
Absolutely, he is.
Yep.
Yeah, I would never forgive Cory Booker because he voted with some Republicans years ago to block prescription drug reforms, where the U.S. government would negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. So, pardon my language, he's also a bitch of big pharma. So, fuck Cory Booker.
Yep. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree.
So, yeah. So, I guess should we go with the next?
Rokana's another one that wants to say he's a progressive, but he's not. That guy drives me fucking insane sometimes.
Well, Ro Khanna is probably the best of those Democrats in California that was just mentioned, but
Only because he understands MMT and how the economy works. That's it. I've worked with him a couple times in the MMT crew. He's no different than like a Gavin Newsom. I'm telling you, he's no different.
Oh, really?
I mean, he will go on things and like take the criticism and try to, he like, I'll give him that. He's definitely got respect with that. He'll go on criticism podcast or whatever, but he's no different out here. I mean, he's not like out there making changes in his community or anything like that. He's just a tote the line liberal.
Okay, because I live on the East Coast, so I just assume he might have been maybe slightly better than, let's say, Maxine Waters, that I call a down the line Democrat. Like maybe just what?
Oh, so my cat just went right in front of my light because he's a dick.
But anyway,
hold on. Cory Booker, district.
No, he's a senator.
Oh, a senator. See, this is how much he's not doing shit.
Yeah, U.S. senator for New Jersey.
Oh no, sorry, Ro Khanna. Oops.
Oh, Ro Khanna. Oh, I don't know what number district
he. District. 17th district.
Silicon Valley, right?
Hold on. Ro Khanna. Wait, what is it? Oh, okay. CA 17. So that would be oh my god, CA 17. My computer hates me today. 17th congressional district. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's up by San Francisco, just south of Silicon Valley and all of that. Okay, here you guys. I'll show you guys so you can see. So yeah, then this is proof right here, like even more proof. Ro Khanna is no different. See, so there's San Francisco right here. So this is Nancy Pelosi's area. He's right under Nancy Pelosi's area, literally right underneath it. So yeah, he's no different. Oh. No fucking difference. Okay, yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely.
What's the lady from there's a female member of Congress from California that's kind of progressive. Portman.
Hold on. Congressman Portman.
Yeah.
Katie Porter.
Katie Porter, that's it. What about her?
She might be doing stuff for her district. I haven't heard much. To me, she seems more like one of those quick talking points kind of ladies, the ones that like to go into Congress and like puts up a big board with a Sharpie and is like explains things really well in a progressive way. But I haven't really seen. I mean, I know she does a lot of good stuff. Like, I think her her area was one of the ones that took on the free, like a UBI type thing in that district, and it ended up working out really, really well. So I'll give it to her. I'll give her a little bit of credit where credit is due. She is pretty decent. But I feel like she
Okay.
does a lot of, like, I see her a lot on TikTok. Like, a lot of people post her up on TikTok because she's got these cool, really good 1-minute PowerPoint presentations that kind of like are like smack in your face, like a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And I feel like sometimes that's a lot of, when I see that, to me, it's a lot of virtue signaling. But I'll give her credit where credit is due. She's pretty decent, and she keeps winning, but she's still, I'd give her 50-50. She's still a centrist Dem as well, or else she wouldn't
Yeah.
still be there.
Yeah. Well, here in North Carolina, the Democrats are pretty lukewarm. Around here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only good thing about last week in North Carolina, the candidate for governor, Mark Robinson, was defeated. The one that some people call Black Hitler. You know who I'm talking about?
The one that was going to take Gavin's spot. Oh, no. Sorry. The guy that was going to run for office and he lost just a couple, like last week. Yeah.
So, he I had no idea he was crazy when he won when he won 4 years ago for lieutenant governor. The only thing that struck out was, okay, he's an African American that happened to be a Republican. Okay, that will stand out a little bit, but I didn't think I thought he was kind of like maybe Tim Scott of South Carolina, a standard Republican that just happened to be a black guy. I didn't think he was like a lunatic right-wing person.
Right.
And just like, wow, I'm like, I mean, and he ended up sounding to the right of Marjorie Taylor Greene sometimes on some of the shit that he would say, or Laura Loomer even. I'm like, God damn,
I know it.
Yeah,
he was crazy.
Yeah,
that's our system nowadays. That's what we have. That's what we're stuck with. We, obviously we've got to come together and organize really serious this year or these next 4 years and really just start getting, working on local politics. That's why I really enjoyed last week when we brought those Socialist Party people on. I'm really hoping to see about the seriousness of organizing for local politics and see where this goes, because I really do think too, as well, that the stigmatism of the word socialism has lost a lot of its oomph. And I think that people can start realizing that there's, a good wide variety and a lot of parties, that we don't need to just be stuck with Democrats and Republicans who have their rules set in stone. There's other parties that are changing and organizing better and are more open to differences of opinions. And I think that we really, if we have a fighting fucking chance in this goddamn country, we need to start doing this shit now, because I'm going to start getting pissed.
Yeah, and there's plenty of work to do in this country. Lord knows plenty of work to do in this country.
And there, plenty of issues. Everybody find a passion issue that you love, that you want to really, really work on, and have everybody come together, because everybody's opinions are different. Everybody's passions are different. We just need to figure out to stop the divides, stop thinking that your passion project is bigger and more important than another one's, or less important than another one. And we all come together and it's all equal, and we all fight it. So that way the enemy, quote unquote, as Trump would like to say, is surrounded on all fronts and can't fight it, because we're all one together with multiple issues that we love and we care about and that we're knowledgeable about and we can fight on. That's where we need to start coming together and figuring that shit out.
Yeah, I mean, and
we're over here talking about getting events and we're organizing, and Kayla's in the comments like, I'll cook, bitch. Okay, you're hired.
Yeah. Oh, Jack H says here, if Farage becomes prime minister in the UK, we'll go from having the most hated PM ever to having the most useless PM ever. It's worse than that. Nigel Farage, you're familiar with Nigel Farage, Jimmy?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah, he there's a billboard in the UK where he's actually proposing that the UK scrap their National Health Service and they go and switch over to an insurance based system model after the United States. So Princess Kayla 91 hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. Fuck Nigel Farage.
Yep, I think Kayla had said something about this earlier as well in the comments, and we weren't talking about it at that time, but yeah, she had even said something in here earlier about the UK wanting to disband the NHS and privatize it, which is absolutely insane. Like, please, the UK, can you please stop following what we're doing? Them and Australia, just don't listen to us. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're dumb.
Yeah.
We're dumb as shit.
America's retarded when it comes to healthcare. So all the other countries around the world that has universal healthcare, if you want to switch over to the American system, don't do it. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're going to get into. Don't do it.
For real.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a nightmare. It's evil.
It is. The fact that you have to pay monthly for an insurance company to make sure that you have insurance, so that way you don't have to pay when something serious happens. But when something serious happens, they need a $500 minimal deductible, and then the insurance company only covers a portion of what your accident would actually cost. So not only are you paying a deductible, a prepayment to get something fixed that happened to you, but you're paying the leftovers that the insurance company won't fix, on top of paying monthly for however many years until the accident happens to cover when the accident happens. They don't actually cover. I'm telling you, it's a trick. It's a scam. If you guys want to figure out the biggest scammity scam of all scams, it's privatized healthcare. For real. Don't do it. It's horrible.
We need to abolish insurance companies in this country.
Absolutely.
That's headed my way. I'm not even a tanky, and if there's one area I want to focus some real angry tanky energy at, is the insurance companies and big pharma. I mean, if I could, I'd put those motherfuckers in prison.
Absolutely. Big Pharma is another one too. Like, I swear to God, I know for a fact that we would have had cancer figured out by now and solved if it wasn't for the pharmaceutical companies making so much money on cancer patients and anything else. I mean, they come up with the problem. I remember back in the day when I first ever heard a commercial ad talking about restless leg syndrome and the pills that you can take for restless leg syndrome. Like, y'all are coming up with the craziest shit to get us to buy your products. That's what happens with these privatized corporations. The pharmaceutical company is privatized. It is not for the benefit or the care and betterment of humanity. It is for profit. It is to make the most money. So they're going to cause problems because they need to keep making money. And capitalism is about increasing and making more and more and more. So they're going to keep making more problems and never fixing them.
You want to know the dumbest argument I've ever heard about against socialized medicine? You know, they're like, if we had socialized medicine, America would no longer be the on the cutting edge of medical research. It'll go to somebody else. I don't care. As long as people getting health care in this country, I don't care if America's number one or not in research.
Yep, I agree.
That's like the dumbest argument, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like, what are they worried about? Like, whoever creates a really good x-ray machine is going to be in another country. Not like we don't outsource everything already as it is. Like, okay, so some guy in China is going to make this x-ray machine that can tell you your biological DNA through it or something safe, or whatever. Like, then that means we can end up, if we've got free healthcare, that means that whoever invented that out there is going to bring it out here because it's going to be beneficial for humanity, not making a profit.
good point about what you said about outsourcing. They don't care when the other jobs are outsourced, but that for some reason they'll use that as an excuse. It'll outsource the research. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't care. I care about American lives being saved. And the only way we're going to save American lives and not bankrupt them at the same time is to have, some kind of universal health care system, some Medicare for all like they have in Canada, or the UK style National Health Service, or heavens to murgatory, something like they have down in Cuba,
Right. Or,
Yeah.
Israel, because we're paying for their health insurance or their health
The
care.
one of the few things you can actually praise that country for is the fact they do have universal health care.
Yep. And we're paying for it.
Yeah. An imaginary country did one good thing, and they created health care for all. And we can't do that here in this country.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. It's pathetic.
Absolutely.
All right. We ready for the next one? I got up the Bernie Sanders Blast Harris campaign.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Didn't hold back. He delivered a blistering reaction to the outcome of the presidential election, but he was not rebuking President-elect Donald Trump. Instead, he was going full scorched earth on the Democratic Party.
In a statement Sanders released Wednesday, the progressive senator from Vermont writes, quote, "It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right." Sanders added, quote, "Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign?
Nope.
Will they understand the pain and political alienation that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing? Do they have any ideas as to how we can take on the increasingly powerful oligarchy which has so much economic power?"
That is the question. Now, I was seeing pushback from Democrats, and you're probably better informed on this than I am. I really don't have a dog in this fight because while I don't like or agree with many of the policies of the Democratic Party, and I appreciate Bernie Sanders' honesty and that he is an ideological figure who believes in something and is not at all afraid to politicize his own side, I don't agree with his policies, and I don't think they'd be voters of the country, and I don't really want the Democratic Party, for the most part, to move in that direction. Although I will admit I've become more concerned during COVID about the pharmaceutical industry and regulatory capture and all of those things. So I wouldn't say there's nothing for me on the left in their approach to corporate power. I think corporate power can be dangerous. I'll admit that. But when I saw the pushback from Democratic people to what Bernie Sanders said, they're saying, "What are you talking about? Joe Biden was the most pro-labor president, and it didn't get him anything," and almost saying, "We tried with labor, and they reject us anyway, so why should we even bother?" But I don't really know who's right.
Well, I think Sanders is right, because I look at the exit polls from this election, and it is clear that there is an ongoing sequence of events where working class voters are becoming increasingly Republican, and that should be a core Democratic constituency. Now, as I read Sanders' argument, it is that the Democratic Party has not been good enough at foregrounding those concerns about things like the minimum wage, about things like healthcare, about things that millions and millions of Americans are struggling with. And instead, they take refuge in a kind of milquetoast approach sometimes, or in too much of a sort of fake centrism that doesn't actually win anyone over. So you take Liz Cheney around the country to no good effect at all. Whereas if you give all those Americans who are disaffected for good reason, as Sanders sees it, who are struggling economically, some reason to vote for them, that is a good thing. I think there's a separate argument which Sanders would perhaps also make about how identity or identitarian politics has been a kind of dead end for the Democratic Party, because it often highlights or emphasizes differences between people of different ethnic or other backgrounds who share similar economic concerns.
Thank you.
The Harris
Yes,
campaign,
that was good.
You know, they did, I guess, a little bit of outreach to the left in terms of having Tim Walz be the candidate who was one of the more left-leaning or more progressive on those issues, the economic issues, the labor issues, the people on the table. I think it was intended by her to be a kind of overture to the left. What I've learned from interacting with left pundits, people who've sat in your chair and who we've had on as guests, is that they're extremely principled, and just kind of signaling, winking at them nicely is not enough. Right. You have to actually do things.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, Harris did, much to Trump's chagrin, steal his idea about tip income becoming tax exempt. And that was clearly an attempt to appeal to working class voters. And frankly, it was an attempt to appeal to lots of people who work in the service industry in Nevada, which is where she made that speech where she announced that she was supporting that measure. It does not appear that that has worked. But I do think that in general, there is a propensity among the consultant class, as Sanders would put it, in the Democratic Party, to adopt this sort of Michael Bloomberg or Morning Joe version, which is liberal on social issues and conservative on fiscal issues. And that is actually quite a small proportion of the population who feel that way and are susceptible to voting for Democrats.
Yeah, I've run into that before because I actually used to describe myself that way. I mean, in some levels, it still does fit me. I generally have. I am not a social conservative. I mean, what is now? It's like I'm a moderate though because I have some criticisms of what transgender activists tell me and those kinds of things. But I'm a moderate on abortion. I support gay marriage, etc. I'm not particularly religious, but I am economically conservative. Although what economically conservative is now changing because I'm for free trade and low tariffs, and that doesn't really describe either party right now. Is certainly not something I'm sad about.
But it's diametrically opposed to the Trump position, which is a big issue.
Yeah, we're going to find out if he does that tariff for real and how it impacts. Now, he surrounded himself. It's interesting because the people advising Trump right now, or who have gotten into his inner circle, are a very unique assortment of intellectual characters who I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot in the coming weeks. We're going to see who's exercising influence over him, because if it's RFK Jr., this is someone who has a career of being, just setting aside whatever you might think of his views on a variety of subjects, someone who has fought corporations and the pharmaceutical industry and big business and environmental causes time and time again, fitting right into the progressive economic mold. Is that the person who's going to be influencing Trump? Or is it going to be, Bill Ackman and Elon Musk, who are very, very wealthy business people who, despite their, newfound support for the Republican Party and Trump and conservative causes, I'll have to imagine are going to say, please don't do this tariff because that's going to be damaging to our businesses and our customers, et cetera. Who is going to be, and Trump has some ideological instincts, but also is very capable of changing his mind. The TikTok ban, he changed his mind totally on that. He changed his mind on other economic topics. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether he's genuinely going in he used to be listening to someone like Steve Bannon, who has a lot of bad views and is despised by the left, but who actually had much more of a pro-worker, pro-union, pro-labor instinct. He had no love for big business or free markets or anything of that kind. And he's not involved now. You have Elon Musk as like the prime intellectual and business interest. It's going to be really interesting to see.
I think on that point about Trump, one of the interesting things is, yes, he's massively changeable in what he actually claims or purports to believe, but he does always have an eye on his own popularity. He does actually, for all that he's criticized on the left for many legitimate things, he also does have an instinct for what is popular and what isn't. And he has plainly won this election in part because of the issues that we're talking about, the ones that appeal to working class voters, that are able to expand his appeal despite all the things that Democrats cite as evidence of authoritarian tendencies or just offensiveness. He has been able to siphon off a certain amount of working class support that has got him over the line. So you would think, even though he has no elections further to run, that he would stay true to those beliefs so long as they continue to fuel his popularity. Yeah. But he's a hard man to predict.
He is a hard man to predict. But you're right that he, unlike many other Republicans, he does not want to implement policies that he thinks are going to damage his popularity or damage his influence and power within his increasingly large coalition of voters and supporters. Yeah. That does it for us today on Rising. Thanks so much for...
Right. So what do you got to say about that?
Well, I actually have basically 5 things to say about that. And thing about it is, well, first of all, what Bernie Sanders had to say in his
tuning in, we really appreciate your support. Let us know.
Was correct overall. But if Kamala Harris would have campaigned on the PRO Act, and she said nothing about the PRO Act, campaign on Medicare for all, she didn't even campaign on a public option. It would have said, we're going to fight like hell for Build Back Better. Nothing to say about that. I would have added paid vacation of 4 weeks. And the actual implementation, enforcement of the old Humphrey Hawkins Act of 1978, which is the law of the land, but just not enforced, which guarantees full employment. Those 5 things would be kind of like, as I said, labor law reforms, single payer health care, the Build Back Better, which would work on infrastructure, paid vacation times for all workers, and the Humphrey Hawkins Act that would do so much for tangibly for American workers that we would be better off as a country. But she wouldn't do that. She'd rather sit there and play patty cake and bump fists with Dick and Liz Cheney.
Right. Yep. She had her chance. I think she really had an opportunity to really go for that big progressive left vote when she brought in Tim Walz. That guy was even shocking to me as somebody who's, like somebody like us, for that to be that shocking, like that really meant something. And just to see them capitulate to the right slowly but surely was surprising, but also not at the same time. She doesn't really have any, and the Democrats themselves don't really have anyone to blame but themselves.
I have a theory about Tim Walz. Like they were talking about, Tim Walz was sort of a wink and a nod to the left, to the Bernie people. And it was more along the lines of they were throwing a bone to the Bernie people. But I think that they had a talk with Tim Walz. They were like, well, we know what kind of a governor you are. We know you're more or less the Bernie Sanders of Minnesota. You're going to be her running mate. But here's the thing. You can give that Bernie vibe to the constituency, but you're going to be controlled opposition. That's what I think happened.
Okay. That's a lot better than what I thought you were saying at first, which I thought it was when you said like a nod or a wink to the Bernie people. I thought it was like, haha, we're going to put this in your face and then we're going to tell them to shut up and be like us. That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm ever going to vote again after this election, because I just don't know if I'm ever planning to vote ever again.
Yeah, I know. I'm really not interested in to see who's coming up in 4 years again afterwards, because I don't think it's going to be any different. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, exactly. It's like Lucy pulling out the football. Exactly. How many more times is she going to pull out the football before we stop running there and kicking it?
Yeah, that's the Democratic Party in a nutshell. Is Lucy pulling the football constantly?
Yep. Now we just need the right to do that. We need the right to start realizing that Trump is Lucy pulling out that football, especially with the tariffs and shit going on right now. Like, y'all need to start smartening up, because Trump went around saying that these tariffs are amazing, not realizing that the price of everything is already now going up because he said that. So motherfuckers need to start smartening up. I'm telling you.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens. I guess we'll go with the next story.
I know. Yep. All right. So what I put down was, or I got, We're So Cooked by Kyle. Here we go.
Has officially begun. In the wake of Kamala's big loss, a lot of conversations are happening on the Democratic side, on the liberal side, on the leftist side. So let me show you this here. This is from a senior White House correspondent and an anchor on Fox News. The blame game has begun inside Harris world. Harris Wall surrogate, a member of the DNC National Finance Committee and Pennsylvania commissioner, tells me Tim Walz was a bad choice of running mate. Shapiro would have carried the blue wall states. All right, just right off the bat here, this is fucking delusional, and this is obviously incorrect. Trump won by a very, very comfortable margin. Very comfortable. The idea that a different VP pick would have changed that outcome is nonsense.
Right.
And this is just this woman trying to confirm her priors. She probably didn't like Tim Walz to begin with and liked Josh Shapiro and wanted Josh Shapiro to be the pick. So now in retrospect, she's saying, oh, if it was Josh Shapiro, we would have won.
Yep.
Guys, Trump has over 300 electoral college votes. He may end up winning the popular vote, right? So this was not like, hey, with this one little tweak, this one weird trick, oh, it all could have been different. No. They say Harris's positions were not clearly staked out. She knows it was a mistake to say on The View that she couldn't think of a single thing that she would do differently from the Biden administration. That was opener for her to show Americans that she's going to get tough on the border, that she's going to take drastic measures to bring down inflation. That was her chance. And she knew that she maybe should have were two things differently when in the next 40 minutes. What does that mean? And she said I would appoint a Republican to the cabinet. So she walked that back a little bit. Okay. On the point that that was her worst moment, I agree. The idea that you couldn't separate yourself from Biden. And ultimately, that's what this election was about. It was an anti-incumbency vote. And by you not separating yourself from Biden, you are effectively saying, I'm a continuation of Biden. And people did not want that. I agree that was probably her worst moment. But again, I want to be clear. Even if she didn't do that, would she have won? These are not small margins that we're talking about here, right? The focus on fascism was not working. On that one, it's like, okay, well, what do you want people to do? Not state the obvious? Not say, hey, this guy tried to overthrow the last election. He tried to do a coup. He did fake elector slates. He wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act. You know, he wants to surround himself with loyalists and give himself all the power. If you want to say, hey, don't use the word fascism, use the word authoritarian, okay, we can have a conversation about that, but don't pretend like, oh, if you just dropped that part of the campaign, everything would work out. Again, that is incredibly delusional. They say too many cooks in the kitchen led to muddled campaign messaging, poor staffing decisions in key battleground states. Again, this is classic as to what happens when a campaign loses. Everybody's pointing.
Poor fucking staffing decisions. Bitch, you had millions of dollars. I just heard this morning that she wasted like millions of dollars on Oprah. Bitch. And they're talking about staffing problems. Why not put out better people in each state that can go door knocking and phone banking and help people get out your fucking opinions and your views to the voters and talk to people, regular people, instead of spending millions of dollars on fucking Oprah? Fuck out of here.
Don't worry, they'll probably do a GoFundMe for Kamala Harris. So
I think they just did this morning. They just posted it up this morning that they're doing it. They're doing a GoFundMe for Kamala right now.
For real?
I was just
joking about
for
that.
Real. They're saying, like, we know that the elections turned out the way that we didn't want. I guess it's an email, the way that we didn't want to. But we can still fight and make a change if you donate here, and it's a Kamala Harris thing. Yeah, there's already emails going out to people this week. I think Hassan brought it up this morning on his show on Twitch. So I'll find it for you, but I'm telling you,
trying to deflect blame from themselves, and it ends up as a total mess. They say Harris' team was expecting a protracted legal fight, even extended hotel rooms for big donors through Thursday. Now they're going home. In other words, they thought it would be a close election and Trump would try to declare victory, but ultimately it wasn't even a close election. So now everybody's sort of tapping out. Look, guys, here's my fear. I'm worried that the Democrats will learn all of the wrong lessons from this, right? I'm worried that the Democrats will look at Trump's win and will go, we just have to be more like Trump. I'm not kidding. Like, I think they'll look at it and say, we need to be more authoritarian. We need to be more fascist. You already hear her saying we should have been even tougher on the border. I guarantee you that was not the issue. Democrats have a super conservative record on the border, and they're the ones who had the bipartisan bill that would have cracked down on the border even more. It has nothing to do with that, right? But I fear it's going to be like, okay, let's get even tougher on the border. Let's just agree with Republicans completely on the border. Let's start saying we want mass deportations also. Let's start throwing trans people under the bus or whatever. I fear that that's the lesson they're going to learn, which is just, it would be a worst case scenario, right? That would be a worst case scenario because we need them to stand for something. I got to be honest. I think the reason Trump won, it really was more of all the intangible shit. I told you guys this in the other segment, but bottom line, this was an anti-incumbency vote, period. They said, we're mad about inflation. We're mad about the economy. We blame Joe Biden and the Democrats. Therefore, we're going to vote against the Democrats. That's all this was. But, the intangible stuff that helped Trump is he's charismatic, he's controversial, and he's a celebrity. Yep. And he feels like revolutionary and authentic. And people, in times of dire need for change, people will turn to the ones who are seemingly more willing to bring about change, right? The less establishment-y candidate. And that's why they cut in that direction. So what the Democrats need to do is copy this part of Trumpism. Trumpism super serves his own base. So Democrats need to super serve their own base. But also, a lot of this just comes down to basic, visceral shit of have somebody who's more charismatic, have somebody who's a celebrity, have somebody who's controversial, build up your own, information mechanisms. The right has a lock on Twitter and they have a lock on the podcast sphere. And you need to counter that to try to capture the culture more thoroughly. And it's all shit like that, which led to this loss. Because the fact of the matter is Kamala ran a better campaign than Hillary 2016. Trump ran a worse campaign than Trump 2016. And Trump still ended up winning, which tells me it's literally just we're kind of desperate. Fuck people who are in there. We're going to go in the other direction. So for you to just marry up with this iteration of insane far-right Republicans, that would absolutely spell doom for the Democrats for a long time, right? And that's what I'm afraid of, man. I'm afraid of... and the other thing is, what lesson did Republicans take away from this? The lesson they took away from it is never, ever, 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 ever cross Trump. Everybody who's ever crossed Trump in the Republican Party has lost their career. And now the ones who stuck their neck out there to say, we don't want Trump, they're even more irrelevant than they've ever been, right? Because obviously the Republican Party is not going to reform. They're going to double down and triple down on Trumpism because Trumpism just won. So now you have an incredibly sycophantic Republican Party that will go wherever Trump wants them to go. All of the politicians will coddle his nutsack. Hear me now, quote me later. And it sounds like the conversations happening behind the doors for Democrats is we need to move more in their direction also. So in other words, you want extreme authoritarianism with no checks and balances, no voice of opposition. This would be an utter cataclysmic, apocalyptic disaster. And you already see the conversations. You already see some people, talking on MSNBC, the Morning Joe types were going after cancel culture and wokeness. Like, bro, Kamala didn't say a fucking goddamn word about cancel culture or wokeness or race or identity politics. She bent over backwards to not do that. She was running on patriotism and USA and freedom. And every time somebody tried to prod her on race or gender, she would say, I'm trying to represent every American. The idea that that's the problem here, that is not the problem here. But, there was a famous tweet back in the day when Trump won. It said, Democrats are going to look in the mirror and go, we need to be more racist. Now they're probably going to look in the mirror and say, we need to be more fascist, right? And that's what I'm afraid of. Guys, it's almost a secondary point as to whether or not you win or not. The primary point is, for the love of fucking God, stand for something, right? For the love of God, stand for something. And they're failing on that front, aren't they? They're failing on that front. Look, any criticism you levy at Kamala, she has a rebuttal to it, right? She would have a rebuttal to it. Oh, you should have reached out to Republicans. Well, they fucking did. They did in like 7 different ways. Oh, you should have reached out more to the base. Did. Well, they kind of did. $6,000 child tax credit, kind of a big deal. Have a Medicare cover home care, kind of a big deal. Go after medical debt, kind of a big deal. Pick Tim Walz, kind of a big deal, right? So, like, they didn't do everything horribly. I mean, some things were bad, but a lot of things were good, and they didn't win. So that means it was an anti-incumbency election. She was tarred with the number that only 25% of the country think we're going in the right direction. That's why they went for Trump. The way to defeat Trump moving forward is to provide an alternative to Trump when inevitably his project hits the fan. The shit will hit the fan with Trumpism. Hear me now, quote me later, especially now because there are zero guardrails. He's going to try to do the unitary executive theory. He's going to take a hatchet to all the regulatory government agencies. The Supreme Court is going gonzo from now until 70 years from now. It'll be a 7-2 Republican Supreme Court. It'll be absolutely disastrous. The amount of damage that can be done vis-a-vis the environment, vis-a-vis big business and pollution, vis-a-vis everybody's rights, regulation of business to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. The damage that's going to be done is astronomical. The unitary executive theory where Trump gets to call all the shots. You need to be there to call it out, block it, and provide a counter alternative. Respond to the far-right extremism with a clear vision of leftism, right? And it sounds now like what they're saying is we're going to go in the opposite direction. Blame Tim Walz. He was the most popular guy on either of the tickets. That was the fact before today, and that's the fact after today. He was the most popular guy. But they're blaming him, right? What am I going to do with these people? What am I going to do with these people? The media is going to take the wrong lesson. The Democrats are going to take the wrong lesson. The Republicans are going to take the wrong lesson. It's a scary moment for that reason, right? And they're just going to read the tea leaves and take away that everything horrific and horrible Trump did was actually based in good in the eyes of the population. And I simply don't buy that. As I said, I view this more as an anti-incumbency vote, and then mix on top of that celebrity of Trump, controversy of Trump, charisma of Trump. That's why he ended up winning. It's really not any deeper than that. And they're already pointing fingers. The blame game has already begun. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a dark 4 years. And all I can say is I hope with how extreme Trump is about to be, Democrats get their shit together and know how to fight. But I worry that they'll 30% to 50% now go along with his extremism because they feel like, well, that's how we become more electorally viable, is being just like Trump. Oh boy, that would be ugly. Hey, y'all,
I'm seeing it too. That's absolutely.
Oh, I've seen it since the days of Reagan and Bush 1, that Vice President Bush, that the Democratic Party started going right with the Democratic Leadership Council. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton took over the Democratic Leadership Council. And they, as a term I use, they Reaganized the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party today is basically, in the 1990s, the Democratic Party was basically the Reagan. It was basically the Ronald Reagan Republican Party that just happens to be pro-choice on abortion and didn't hate gay people. And now the Democratic Party today is basically the George W. Bush, Dick Cheney Republican Party that doesn't hate trans people. And, they may not even hate Muslims. I mean, but they still will bomb the shit out of Muslims in across the world and all of that. I mean, this is where we're at, and and they always want to go right. Now, as far as a presidential candidate, if one must look toward the Democrats. The Amazing Atheist a couple of years ago said the ideal Democratic Party candidate would be somebody with Bernie Sanders policies, but somebody who had the kind of the asshole demeanor of Donald Trump, very dismissive, just a piece of shit, kind of just a dismissive person. If the media attacks you, you just attack the media back the way he would do it, whatever. But instead of just being a prick ideologically on policy, you offer good things and just have that populist appeal, but basically be a Donald Trump of the left, but with Bernie policies. I don't know if that makes any sense. But that would be cool, I mean, you just when the media or insult you, you insult them back, Jeb Bush said to Donald Trump in one of the debates back in 2016, well, you just can't insult your way into the White House. Well, that's what the fuck he did in 2016. He insulted his way into the White House.
Yup. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what Bernie Sanders needed to do in 2016, 2020, or any progressive person needs to do. I hate the word progressive because that's kind of been bastardized. But a real solid leftist running, they need to do that. They need to go and I mean, honestly, if I had it my way, 2028. Green Party nominate Breonna Joy Gray and just be done with it. That's I will go and enthusiastically support that ticket.
Wait, who? So, a what ticket?
Breonna Joy Gray. I want her to run for president.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Breonna Joy Gray, she actually got interviewed by the Gray Zone talking about the Democratic suppression of third parties. We can get started on that right now if you would like.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, here we go, you guys. Willy Bragg's 2028 presidential candidate pick. Breonna Joy Gray. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
I'll take the VP position.
All right.
Oh, this concept of democracy and how this is, many voters are saying the state of democracy is what they're voting on. What does this independent candidacy represent, or how does it reflect the state of American democracy? What kind of suppression are you seeing out there with Green Party candidates and other independent candidates? And what kind of treatment are you getting from the Democratic Party and DNC's sort of outsourced influencers on social media and elsewhere?
Look, the suppression has been incredible. The Green Party has to spend millions of dollars that it doesn't really have to try to defeat legal attacks from the Democratic Party to kick it off the ballot. It is experiencing mismanagement and interference from state Democratic parties, like as we're seeing in Ohio, where they've played these shenanigans with deadlines on when you can announce your VP, making separate rules for the Green Party than they've instituted for the Democratic Party, which also didn't choose its presidential candidate, much less vice presidential candidate, till after the deadline date. But the Green Party has been kicked off the ballot, and at various precincts, folks have reported signs saying that your Jill Stein Green Party vote won't count, which the Green Party is contesting in court. Moreover, we have seen attempts to interfere with independent journalists, specifically independent Black journalists. 2 radio hosts were fired earlier this year after it came out that the Democratic Party fed them questions. And Tavis Smiley, a renowned radio host, recently sat down with me for an interview on Bad Faith Podcast and went into detail about how he received Oppo research from a senior person in the Democratic Party, including questions that they were sent to him before he sat down with Jill Stein just a couple of weeks ago. He immediately told Jill Stein and on camera read the questions and exposed that this was going on. The other 2 radio hosts went along with the program, and when their station found out about it, it was a violation of their codes of conduct, and they got fired for journalistic malpractice. So there's really no ends too far for the Democratic Party to go to try to make sure that we don't live in a democracy, that they have full control over who voters even know is running for this race. I mean, as a very secondary matter, I have come under a lot of focus, I think in part because, look, there's always shaming when you move outside of the Democratic Party, but I think it's relatively rare for people, not that I'm of any real renown, but the backlash is so strong that I think most people would rather avoid it. We saw what happened to people like Susan Sarandon, who's been, by all accounts, blacklisted from many quarters in Hollywood. People have been dropped by their agents for advocating for Palestine. It's a real dog-eat-dog world out there. And if you've gone through it once, a lot of people just don't really.
She was dropped by creative artists. She was dropped by creative artists agency.
That's right. That's right. So my feeling is that, as frustrating as it is sometimes, as difficult as it is sometimes, and as much as, frankly, for my own kind of professional kind of shielding and professional kind of neutrality, I would prefer not to maybe take on this role. I do feel like it's a sort of an obligation, as long as it's out there. Journalists all over the place talk about who they're going to vote for, but for some reason it's supposed to be uniquely stigmatizing if you're voting Green. I think that normalizing that normal people who have earned the trust and respect, at least in some quarters of the internet and some quarters of the left, are very openly making this political choice is creating a permission structure for others to realize that they don't have to be stuck in the corporate plantation of the Democratic Party. I went out and made my own Green Party hats. I've been walking around in them in the city. I've been trying to really resist the stigma that is around not voting blue no matter who. And I think the reason is simple. I don't just feel like the Democratic Party needs to be punished. I feel like the Democratic Party is absolutely part and parcel of the ratchet effect. Without the Democratic Party, we wouldn't have the consistent moving to the right. If you genuinely want to stop the rightward shift of this country, I think that you have to at least make an attempt to create an independent political structure that will have the opposite effect of the ratchet effect, to pull the country back to the left instead of voting lesser of two evils in a way that guarantees that the next conservative candidate, the next conservative nominee, is going to be to Donald Trump's right. There's no counterbalance unless we start to fight now today for a political alternative.
Fuck. Thank you.
But what do you make of the argument? This is the counter argument to this. And there was a recent video that's put out by
like fucking somebody needed to say that shit right there. Like, without a legitimate, viable, left swinging something or other in politics, it's just going to keep going to the right, 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 because Democrats are never going to pull things to the left. It's just not going to happen. We've got to figure out a way to figure out a viable third party way, at least with voting politics aspect of things, that in that scope.
And she is committed to some kind of third party formation of the left, and she she's, I mean, she said it multiple times. I mean, she said it multiple times that other countries around the world have something that's of that nature, that's not like the Democratic Party. And our Democratic Party in the United States would be a conservative party in most Western countries, ideologically, because to the right of these conservative parties, because some of those conservative parties in, the conservatives in Europe and in the UK and the Christian Democrats in Germany and all these other center right parties do support universal health care. At least they do.
Yep.
And you can't even get Democrats to support a public option. They're to the right of conservatives in other countries.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I was watching the Political Matrix the other night, and they were having that discussion about the Democratic Party. Is it really a left party or not? And they were they discussed it along those lines, and it was something along those lines that the Democratic Party would be kind of conservative abroad, and they were both correct.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
who identify with what they call the left, the radical left organizers, saying that electoral politics is not about our own preferences, our own values. It's about setting the conditions under which we wish to organize, and we'd rather organize against our weakest opponent, which in this case is Kamala Harris, versus someone like Trump, who will make it harder to organize and will be impossible to sway because he's on the right and they won't care at all what we say on the left, whereas we have a chance of moving someone like Kamala Harris, and certainly we have a chance of organizing better under a Kamala Harris than we do under someone like Trump.
That's like the criminal in Hannibal, throwing down a baster and some seasoning to the captive victim in the hole and saying, season yourself up real nice and maybe you'll have a better chance of escape. It's absurd. What kind of organizing have we seen under under Joe Biden. Why do we talk about this as though the entire context of the Gaza genocide hasn't happened under a Democratic administration? Did we see pussy hats and people in the streets when Joe Biden was president? We had the largest protest movement in American history in 2020 in the BLM protest. And when Joe Biden became the nominee, everyone was told they had to sublimate their deeply held feelings about a man being killed on camera in front of our eyes to dutifully go and vote for the guy who says we needed to fund the police harder. The man who wrote the crime bill. And police killings of unjustified police killings have only gone up under the Biden administration. At a certain point, there has to be an acknowledgement that while some things are in fact worse under Republican presidents, some things get worse under Democratic presidents. I like to say sometimes that it takes a Democrat. It takes a Democrat to neuter the welfare state like Bill Clinton did, to start the war on crime like Bill Clinton did. And there are many people more historically grounded and smarter than I am who have pointed out that there's a good argument that Richard Nixon was a more progressive candidate than many of our contemporary Democratic politicians that we've had during our lifetime. You have Kamala Harris bear hugging the Cheneys, running around trying to castigate Jill Stein in these attack ads while she just received an endorsement from Richard Spencer. The point is that we have two conservative parties here, and I will not be preached to about lesser of two evils when the lesser evil is beyond my wildest dreams of anything that I would ever consider voting for in a negative way, obviously.
Yeah, I was always wondering what happened to Richard Spencer.
Well, he's Team Harris.
Remember, he was like in 2016. He was getting like cover stories on Mother Jones. They're like the handsome former college quarterback who's now the face of Nazism, and then he just dropped off the face of the map. And now he's back. He started out as a kind of centrist Republican who would hang out at AEI and the think tanks, and like word on the street is he dated a lot of prominent female neoconservative journalists who will not be named now, Julia Ioffe and David Duke. This whole thing of him endorsing Jill Stein was the most predictable thing ever. He endorsed me when my book Goliath became a threat to the neocons. He actually didn't. It was like a semi-positive review that says I wasn't anti-Semitic enough on his site. And they said but like Christopher Hitchens wrote a piece about how David Duke endorsed Cindy Sheehan because he praised her when she was doing her protest outside Bush's ranch in Crawford, Texas. David Duke was jailed for fleecing his followers out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when he came out of prison, he was broke. And then suddenly he starts endorsing all these people who are mainly on the left, who are threats to the establishment. They put two and two together. And what's Richard Spencer doing? It all raises a lot of questions about hijinks here. You also talked about suppression. I heard a Green Party candidate was kicked off the ballot in Ohio after a forged signature was submitted to the Secretary of State, stating that they no longer wish to run and that the Green Party is still lobbying the Secretary of State and trying to prove that was a forgery. The Democrats have tried to force Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to remain on the ballot in states. This is crazy election interference.
Sure as fuck sounds like it to me. God damn.
Yes. I mean, Richard Spencer endorsing Kamala Harris, but we're all supposed to go and be cringe over David Duke,
endorsing Jill Stein.
Yeah, endorsing Jill Stein.
Right.
Thing about it is, I mean, they both have the same position. They both have they both have the same positions on certain questions, but obviously Jill Stein didn't, is not going to accept the endorsement. Obviously, Kamala Harris isn't either. But here's the thing: the fact that Kamala Harris think higher a Dick and Liz Cheney than she does Jill Stein tells me something. That's
right.
That's all we need to know about.
That's all we need to know.
That's all we need to know about liberals. They think they think higher a Dick and Liz Cheney than they do Jill Stein.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
Jill Stein did not kill anybody.
No.
There's blood in Dick Cheney's hands. There's blood in Liz Cheney's hands.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
So.
Speaking of Jill Stein, look at me with my transitions tonight. Here's Jill Stein actually talking about Kamala having no one to blame but herself, interviewed by the Middle East Eye.
This is Mohammed Hassan for Middle East Eye, and I am joined here by the Green Party presidential candidate, Dr. Jill Stein. Doctor, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to have you here. Thanks for coming to cover this.
This is a big night for you after months of campaigning, of being on the road, of talking to people, building coalitions. What does success look like for you tonight?
Success is, I feel like it is ours. Victory is ours. And what that means is that we emerge from this race where there was every effort made to silence us, to suppress us, to throw us off the ballot, to demonize us
Right.
and smear our campaign. We emerge stronger than I ever could have possibly imagined. And we emerged with a real working coalition that is very dedicated to continuing this fight. It feels like this is a launch party. It doesn't feel like this is the end of a campaign. It feels very much like we are going to continue together. And this campaign has brought together the Muslim American community, the Green Party, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, the students. There are so many people who have unified in this incredible crucible right now of this era of genocide, that it has brought out really some of the most amazing, strong, and dedicated spirits of humanity. And we have found each other, and we're not going away. We're not going anywhere. I think the efforts to smear us and to silence us have failed miserably. They tried to keep us off the ballot. We're on the ballot for about 95% of voters. They have created a so-called war room to disparage us and smear us. And that war room has the budget of our entire campaign. They have a staff of 30 people. Yet what they've come up with is actually a laughingstock. It's a set of preposterous smears for which they have been really dragged on social media. So, some of the Green parties, the neoliberal Green parties, have asked me to step down, and to stop, challenging the war machine. And, it is, what can I say? It's an ironic badge of honor that we are standing up against these internal divisions within the Green Party, really drawing the line between the warmongers and those who are actually standing up for an agenda of peace, which is what the Green Party is supposed to be about. So,
well, tell me about this coalition that you mentioned. Now, obviously, we are here in Dearborn, Michigan, the so-called Arab American capital. Tell me why you picked this spot to have to celebrate this night.
This is ground zero. This is ground zero for the new politics, a politics that is by and for the people, that's not bought and paid for by Wall Street and the war machine and AIPAC. This is that alternative. And the Muslim American community has really led the way in this opposition to genocide, in this effort to stand up against the war machine, and not only say that genocide is unacceptable, but also to say that our tax dollars should be spent here on the American people. And so the Muslim American community has the moral strength and the conviction and the backbone to actually stand up. And the courage of this community has been absolutely inspirational. And we have basically partnered with this community from the very start. There were Muslim Americans who adopted our campaign very early on, and who've been a guide for us to reaching out to the broader Muslim community. So I am so grateful for the leadership of this community.
I hate to be a critic of her, but I mean, she was saying the same thing about anti-war stuff back in 2016 as well, saying the youth was doing that. So I'm kind of seeing a little bit of repetitiveness of her talking points, just changing who the people are that are in her talking points as well. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
All right. Yeah. Hold on a second.
And it's
what?
Oh, I just got distracted with something. Go ahead.
The comments, which Kayla's absolutely correct. I mean, Jill Stein might be, a really good independent interview and person to run as a Green Party and stuff, but we have noticed that a lot of her VP picks have been very virtue signally, very, very virtue signally. That's great that she picked a Muslim person as her VP pick for this time around, but there is the fact that he was very anti-LGBTQ. And to me, it seems like Jill Stein might have kind of went a little bit virtue signaling because of what's going on in Palestine and Gaza.
Right.
And she kind of looked over the fact of his beliefs on some of the policies that have to do with the people here in America, which was very anti-LGBTQ, which is not very good on her part. She definitely missed that.
that happened in 2005 with George Galloway when he ran with the New Respect Party. That when he got kicked out of the Labor Party, they founded the Respect Party, which was a coalition of many left-wing parties, and a lot of them. There was a lot of Islamic rage about the Iraq War, and so there was he had to kind of he kind of just had to kind of quiet down some aspects of abortion and LGBTQ rights, because some of the socially conservative aspects of that exist in the Islamic community, and they were okay with the socialism part, but they were, they're kind of like Christians here, like some Christians here. There's a little bit of that, traditionalism that they didn't want to kind of offend, I guess. So, yeah. And here's the thing where I stand on this. Here's the thing. People may have a right to believe what they want to believe, and I'm not one to sit there and police people's thoughts. But if I run for a campaign, I will tell people certain things are unnegotiable. And where I stand on economics, where I stand on economics. Where I stand on the social issues, I stand on the social issues. And people have a right to believe what they want, but I believe in freedom, and freedom includes LGBTQ people. It includes everybody, and if you start to exclude people, that makes you, if it doesn't make you a bigot, it makes you an accomplice to it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
She's part of the Jimmy Dore-esque progressives who think we need to abandon these communities to bring about economic policy change instead of including them because it upsets religious fundamentalists. Yeah. And that's what I was saying by her you could tell by her VP picks. It's mostly virtue signaling. She does it by what issues is really hot at hand to help her get the votes that she needs, by the empathy votes that she needs because of it. And it's not really anything to do with the actual issues that are really at hand that people really care about. It seems more like of a virtue signaling for sure. So
I'm basically I basically am accused of being a class reductionist a lot by some people, and my response is that all leftists are class reductionists, whether you're all identitarian or whether you're strictly about strictly the class struggle. To be a leftist, class will kind of come first, but there is still I don't want to exclude everything else, just to fight class, for class consciousness. To me, I do think they interconnect. What do they call it? Intersectionality. I don't really play around with those labels that much, but I do think that there's an interconnection and all of that. However, yeah, right now, I think that the focus is, I think the focus right now should be, where we can all agree and, and all of that. So I don't know.
Yep.
But everybody gets hung up over little details and everything. And,
Absolutely do. And that, yeah, you're right. And I'm not going to put what else is going on in the chat because I don't want to put anybody on blast, but absolutely. I think that Jacqueline is correct. I'm okay, like the whole, they are allowed to celebrate their LGBTQism. Doesn't mean we need to celebrate them, and we shouldn't, we should let them have their chance to be able to just go and celebrate and do what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been so mistreated, and this is really new. The rights that the LGBTQ people have today is extremely new. And so, when I was growing up in the 1980s and 1990s, though, if I would ever thought of LGBTQ people, the same-sex marriage being legal, that was just an alien concept. Back then, there's been a lot of progress. There's still a lot of more that needs to be accomplished for equality. and it's definitely now going to be an uphill battle, if not from Trump himself. Certainly his minions, congressional Republicans, the evangelicals, all these folks that's in the Republican Party, that I do find probably more problematic than he himself. That's what you really, that's what you got to be taking on. Plus the Democratic Party that's tinkering with the idea of basically dismissing trans rights.
Right. Yeah, same. I don't mean to lecture. I don't want to lecture or anything. I totally understand what you're saying, Earl, of course. As a trans woman, I refuse to vote for or support a party candidate who's allowed that shit. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
I agree.
I mean, I can't,
Princess
that
Kayla,
is one of the
Go ahead,
drawing
I'm
lines
sorry.
for me. No, go ahead.
Yeah, Princess Kayla, I'm 100% with you. Uncompromising on that issue. Absolutely. So
Right. My anecdotal evidence is too thick not to have a red line right there is one of them. I grew up with a lot of trans men that didn't know what that didn't even know that was a term, was a thing. It was just, I had friends that they wanted me to call them their brother. They wanted, they wanted to be referred to as a boy. There wasn't, even in my high school times, and I'm young still, kind of, there wasn't a term for that. There wasn't anything for that. I mean, I even grew up as a kid in the 80s and 90s seeing, I mean, she's still my aunt, but she's trans, and she's a trans man, because there wasn't anything for them like that. So I grew up calling who technically could be my uncle, my aunt, because she didn't have anything for that. So, being able to have, even just have a word, the word trans, just to be able to have, I know a lot of people are anti-label, but being able to have something like that, a representation somewhere is very, 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 very important to those people. And it means a lot. And I think, at least in that tiny little aspect, we have definitely grown better, because the people in my lives personally are better off now because they have something now, instead of constant confusion, of who they are and what they are.
Well,
Which
for
is nice.
me,
And so it's definitely a red line for voting, one of them at least for me.
Around June, when it's LBG, when it's Pride Month and all that. I mean, if a place is draped around with rainbow flags, I'm not going to look at the place and go, oh, gross. I'm not. I'm not. And if a place doesn't have it, it's not going to affect me one way or the other. I mean, in other words, you got people out there, you got people on both sides that can get very goofy about it at times and everything. If the place is very affirming, I'm going to be like, oh, cool. If it, if it has, if it is kind of virtue signaling that they're cool with LGBTQ, I mean, I'll be like, well, that's good. If the place is not, if it's not like screaming through the rooftops that they hate somebody and they just don't really have anything, then I'm going to be indifferent. But obviously, if it's going to be like Chick-fil-A, where the CEO basically says he does not like LGBTQ people, well, that's fine. I'm going to exercise my free speech right with my dollars and not frequent Chick-fil-A. I almost said Bojangles. Yeah.
No, you're
Remember
absolutely
that?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know Bojangles, but you're absolutely right. If Chick-fil-A is taking some of that income or that profit and putting it towards gay conversion therapy, then I have the right to not put my money into that business that's doing that.
Exactly. No, as so far as I know, Bojangles are not doing. I don't know why I said Bojangles. Maybe
I don't
because
know who that is or what that is.
it's kind of like KFC. It's kind of like Chick-fil-A.
Okay, like a Cane's chicken.
Yeah, it sells Cajun style chicken.
Okay.
It's pretty
Cane's.
good at it.
Cane's is amazing. Cane's is very good.
If you're ever in North Carolina, definitely drop by Bojangles. You will love Bojangles. They're always, always, always busy.
Okay. Yeah, same. Over here, if you're ever in California, go to Cane's. Their chicken is amazing. Their their French bread toast thing is amazing. Their dipping sauce to fucking die for. Oh my god. Okay,
I
you want to
still
finish
go to
watching this?
I'll say this and we'll finish watching it. I go to KFC because I die for the mashed potatoes and gravy. I just love their mashed potatoes and gravy.
KFC's gravy. I don't know what it is about their gravy, but it is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember several years ago, I hosted a Christmas party one time, and I got my ham and I had my turkey and everything. I was just like, and I had everything. And it's like, oh, I need mashed potatoes. Where can I get mashed potatoes at this late hour? KFC. I went and bought a lot of mashed potatoes and a lot of gravy. I spent a lot of money, but I was just like, because I was so fucking hungry for mashed potatoes and gravy. I mean, I just
Yep. I fiend for it too. Some of that gravy sometimes is like, oh my god, I need the KFC gravy. It's so good.
Yeah, and the party was a hit too. So yeah.
Yep. All right, here we go. Let's finish this up.
Courage in standing up not only to oppose genocide, but to stand up here for our democracy and to stand up for the right of this community to be heard and to have political power, because it takes a lot of courage to do that. For new Americans who are coming here and they're just like learning the system, that's a lot to learn. I myself grew up during the Vietnam War, and resistance to the prevailing politics was it was the order of the day. So we learned how to do that, in our younger years. But for people who came here as immigrants who are seeking acceptance, within larger society, and who are being smeared and demonized, because the U.S. is at war with Muslim countries around the world, this is a very difficult role to take on. And that community has really stepped up to the plate and asserted incredible moral leadership. And, I have to say the Muslim community is so well organized, maybe because of participation, religious participation. The community is just very organized. Maybe it's comparable to the Black church in some ways, but with a little bit of difference, which would be interesting to think about historically. But, in the same way that the Black community can be very well organized, I have to say the Muslim community is extremely well organized and educated and very powerful.
So you are co-hosting this watch party about the Abandon Harris campaign, which has really tried to galvanize a protest vote against the Democrats over their position on the war in Gaza. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned some of your criticism you've received, and some people have criticized you for taking advantage of that protest vote. And so you mentioned coalitions, and I want you to tell me a little bit more about where this partnership between yourself, between the Green Party and the Muslim community and the Palestinian and American communities, where does it go from here?
So let me just back up for a second. Taking advantage of the misery of the Muslim community by helping to lift up the voice of the Muslim American community. I mean, I think this is self-serving propaganda that is trying to destroy the empowerment and the voice of the Muslim community by saying you're being taken advantage of by a campaign that actually listens to the Muslim community, that has incorporated a Muslim American as my running mate. I think this is it's nonsense to say that we're taking advantage of. These are the policies that we have stood for in the Green Party here since 2006, when we adopted a position in favor of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and against Israeli apartheid and occupation. So this is where we've been. Actually, our policies haven't changed at all in three.
Then why not
run?
Why not run a Muslim candidate as president during one of those election years? If you're going to take on a policy of BDSM back in 2006 when it was written, why hasn't a full Muslim run for office as a Green Party candidate, or has there been?
Could be that maybe that's the plans in the future.
Yeah, but why now? Why say it now? Like, this is the thing. Like, I'm trying because I'm not critical or criticizing too much of third parties, because I really want a viable third party. I'm just a little bit critical on Jill Stein's approach and the use of the Green Party's policies to, I guess, galvanize or tailcoat and run off of that, and using that to be able to become electable while the topic is hot, the button is hot. If you were really for divestments and boycotting in 2006, where was your anti-APAC Muslim, maybe Palestinian a politician that could be not even running for president. I mean, lower
Um,
offices as well too.
I'm not sure, but if she's Muslim, but I think that it's possible Cynthia McKinney might be Muslim now. She was the Green Party candidate in 2008, but I'm not sure if she's Muslim or not. If she's not, I stand corrected, but I think she might have converted to Islam. I think she has. I'm not sure. Now, as far as 2024. I mean, really, that was supposed to be for Cornel West in a way. I mean, when Chris Hedges urged Cornel West to run in the primaries, and then all of a sudden he decided that he was going to run on his own. The Green Party, as dysfunctional as it was going to collapse with all the ballot access, and she was kind of like, to me, it looked like she was like a unifying figure. And this whole, thing that was going on in Gaza was fairly fresh and just starting to, just mounting up and taking place. So, I think that's basically what happened there. I think that maybe something like that for 2028, or who knows when it could happen.
Right. I know, it just seems yeah. All right, let's finish this.
Run at the presidential level since 2012. What changed is history, and so we sort of got discovered. Now, is that taking advantage of people? I don't think so, not at all. That's like kind of ludicrous. I think this is a partnership, and so you mentioned, like, so what comes to the table here with this partnership? I think it's a shared moral vision. It is a common set of values that not only condemns militarism and abuse and violence, but also which supports basic human rights and social justice and respect for the climate and the planet. I think there's so much overlap in our basic values here. So that's one thing we bring together. I think we bring together, as Greens, we have a lot of experience challenging power in elections, and the Muslim community has an awful lot of experience in the world of business, in building organizations, enduring strong organizations, and community organizing. And I think these skills are very magical and powerful when brought together. And I have to say, the experience we've had over the course of the last year working with Abandon Biden, working with the other organizations that are nonprofits, so they don't endorse, but still they engage and they educate their communities. So like ADC, the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Coalition, we've had such great experience on the ground, strengthening our democracy, educating voters, empowering voters, and working against genocide. So there's just so much overlap and a critical skill set that comes together. It makes me really excited about what we're going to do going forward.
Finally, Dr. Stein, there is a big chance that Donald Trump wins the White House tonight. And obviously, we're still waiting to see the results. But if that does happen, and if he does win Michigan in particular, a lot of people, especially on the Democratic side, are going to point their fingers at you. And I want to ask you, there's been a lot of talk about democracy being at stake in this election. And you have spoken about a lot of issues that are close to the hearts and minds of a lot of people in this community. So I want to ask you what you feel is really at stake in this election.
I think everything is at stake. I think human rights, international law, World War III, which we could be dragged into by Bibi Netanyahu, who's looking to suck us into war, expanding war in the Middle East, which could easily go global and go nuclear. In my view, it is our political system right now. It is Democrats as well as Republicans who are dragging us into an impossible future. And unfortunately, the Democrats are not the solution to Donald Trump. If they were, they would win this election. But, they come up with candidates like Kamala Harris, who've been completely protected, who didn't participate in a single debate or have, until very late on, and who was not open to interviews throughout her, throughout the race. And then for much of the time, even after her nomination, she's done, interviews you could count on one hand. So this is not a capable candidate. This is not a vetted candidate. This is not a candidate who stands for something. This is just a symbol of power in the Democratic Party. So they've brought this upon themselves. I think they have no one else to blame. And if voters well, put it this way, voters left Kamala Harris because of her conducting a genocide. She could have won those voters back in the blink of an eye. If she was willing to call for a weapons embargo right now to stop the genocide, she would have won those votes back. So regardless of what the vote count is, regardless of whether our numbers are equal to the margin of difference, in any case, Kamala Harris has no one to blame but herself if she loses this election. She could have stood up and done the right thing at any time. She did not want to do that. If she wanted to do that, she could have called for the embargo, won votes back, and have won this race. That's been clear for a very long time. So I think that Muslim Americans should not be blamed, who will also be blamed here. Should we go back? Should we rerun? Rerun the tape and support this genocidal candidate? I don't think anyone in their right mind would want to do that. The Democrats are going to, go to great lengths to try to blame someone. This is what they always do. In 2016, we know from polls that voters did not leave Hillary Clinton and come to us. Voters entered into the race who otherwise would not have voted. So this is complete nonsense that we were blamed for 2016. They have no one to blame but themselves. So I would reject that propaganda of powerlessness, this propaganda that is trying to drag you back in to the Democratic or the Republican machine, so that they can continue on with their genocidal ways, can expand this war, can continue to rob the American people blind of the resources we need right here at home. And instead, they're conducting genocide. And right now it happens to be in Gaza, but this is expanding into Lebanon now as well. And, they have designs to go far beyond that. So I think this is a time for us to double down on our conviction, on our moral vision, and our determination to actually exercise democracy and to demand a politics of, by, and for the people that is serving us and our shared human values.
Dr. Jostein, thank you very much.
I mean, she's speaking facts right there at the end. I just want to say my little criticism thing really quick. I want to see what she does within the next 4 years, because that's been my big thing, is like whenever she runs for office, the in-between year, she just disappears. And I want to see what she does. I want her to start posting things. I want her to start showing her activism in between. Like if they're going to pick her again as the presidential pick for the Green Party again in 2028, and if they want my vote this time for the Green Party, and you're going to pick her, show me what she's done in between the years that she's running for office, not just the years that she's running for office. Because it's just like I was saying earlier, it's just starting to sound like a lot of virtue signaling, because I don't see her out there doing the actions. I see the lots of criticism of her sitting at a dinner table next to Putin and some really powerful people. I see that her net worth is over $1 million. I just see things that are very status quo in her, and I want to see something now that I'm paying attention. If Green Party's going to put her as a presidential pick and they want my vote, I think it's time that the Green Party starts earning it, if this is the woman that they're going to keep choosing over and over and over again.
I don't think she'll be chosen next time round, because she's kind of up in years now. She's just turned 70. So not that that's old, but I think that by 2028, she might. She really didn't. In defense of her, she really did not want to run in 2024. It was just the whole thing that went on with Cornel West and Peter Dow and that whole thing. That's what happened, and there was going to lose a lot of ballot access throughout the states, and that's why. And she was kind of a unifying figure, and that was why she kind of stepped in there. Like in 2020, it was Howie Hawkins that got the nomination, and they didn't do that well with Howie Hawkins.
Because he was a libertarian at heart, so it was no different than a libertarian vote then.
No, no, he's not a libertarian.
I know he's not actually, but he felt like one to me.
But he, Well, I disagree with him on the Ukraine. I disagree with him on Assange. He's terrible on those issues, but for damn sure, I was kind of disappointed. Yeah. Broke my heart when I found that out about him after the fact. Still kind of not sorry I voted for him, considering Biden. Biden. I just knew Biden was going to be a disaster, and I, as usual, I turned out to be correct. So
Right.
yeah.
No, yeah. I think I wrote in. I think who? Oh, I wrote in Bernie Sanders for the primary, but I think I voted for Vermin Supreme in 2020.
It's not a bad choice. Not a bad choice.
No, a lot nicer than a lot of them. I mean, hey, if he won, we would have gotten a free pony. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I want a pony. I've wanted a pony since I was a little girl.
Last week I voted for technically 2 candidates.
Oh, last week I didn't vote for shit.
Yeah.
I didn't vote.
I voted. Yeah, I don't blame you, but I voted for 2 candidates last week, but and left a lot of it blank because I just don't want my vote going to candidates that will actively work against me or do nothing for me. So
yeah,
so that's basically what it came down to. But what I should have done is I should have actually next time if I do vote, I might do this. Vermin Supreme, because he's got a boot on top of his head,
so
and then
cool.
shoe on head. Alternatively, every other candidate.
Okay.
Vermin Supreme, shoe on head. Vermin Supreme, shoe on head.
All right. So your red line of like the only thing, your red line is like the opposite. Is like the only thing I will vote is I will only vote for you if you have a shoe on your head.
Yeah.
That's your red line.
Yeah, there you go. I might do that next time. Yeah.
All right.
See how that turns out.
There you go. Yeah, we Vermin Supreme, shoe on head, 2028.
Yeah, there you have it. So, any plans this week, Jimmy?
Just check out my Twitch channel, Deep Ditch Jimi over on Twitch. I'm pretty sure me and Hirsch are going to be covering some more news, maybe getting some gaming in with the news as well. Really enjoying this new process thing that I've been wanting to try out, the gaming and politics and discussions and shit. So if you guys want some really good discussions, please hop into the chat, come and hang out with us. Talk about the subjects. Feel free to speak your mind, no judgment. It's been really, really, really good, nice, open stuff. So I'm actually really enjoying myself a lot. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for me. What about you?
See, I'll be streaming tomorrow night, and streaming Friday night. And occasionally I will oversleep on the nights I'm supposed to stream, or something will come up and I will try to do a makeup stream. But Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I always stream. So, or schedule to stream anyway. So that's what we have to look forward to. And I'm trying to think anything else. I guess that's pretty much it until I guess next week. And so any closing words?
Stay high, free Palestine.
Ditto. Stay high, free Palestine.
All right, peace.